Welcome to Screams from the Center, where I hope to provide you with information on topics I find interesting and give my take on them. On this episode, Kansas budget woes, Kansas versus their state Supreme Court, and Nebraska governor vows to defy law. In the state of Kansas, the government has a budget shortfall. Now, this is the state that has enacted the Reagan mantra to the nth degree. They cut taxes on the most wealthy people, gave a little bit to the smaller people. They're cutting back spending on education and all these other kinds of programs. They're also the state that I've mentioned before that is limiting welfare recipients to $25 a day, though as it stands right now, that may be changing. Anyway, they've cut taxes to the corporation and the rich, and to fix these budgetary problems, Governor Sam Brownback and the state legislature have come up with creative new taxes in order to make up for the shortfall. First, they're suggesting deep cuts to education spending. This is things like loans and grant guarantees to students going to college mostly, but there's also a significant secondary school cuts that are going to also happen. The other way that they're going to take care of this problem is they're going to raise their sales tax. Now, the sales tax, you say, David, that everybody buys stuff, including rich people. Yes, but again, I'm going to be discussing this in my tax analysis of the fair tax, mostly, maybe touching on it with the flat tax, but mostly with the fair tax, which is a consumption tax, and show that basically lower income people and middle income people are more affected by things like a sales tax than rich people. Now, again, some states have what's called a sales tax rebate program. Basically, if you live below a certain economic line, you can actually get your state taxes refunded to you at the end of the year. Well, except for Kansas, they're looking at also doing away with that program as well. So it's definitely a tax increase on the poor. They're also eliminating mortgage payment deductions and mortgage tax deductions that benefit the lower middle class and the middle class the most. And these are all things that they're going to do. They're also going to, and the information that I've read doesn't state this specifically, but I've seen this in other states. Mitt Romney did this in Massachusetts. But they're probably going to be also raising things like car registration fees, driver's license fees, the base fees for citations and tickets. These are also income ways, interesting ways that they generate income. So stay tuned for that. Thank you. We go back to Kansas again, and a law that was passed by the governor concerning some education cuts is being challenged in courts, and it's making its way to the Kansas Supreme Court. The governor of Kansas, Sam Brownback, and the legislature have promised that if the Supreme Court dares to judge and rule opposite of what their wishes are, that they're going to put forward a bill that's going to cut their funding. So basically, the judiciary is being blackmailed with their budget to rule in favor of the government, or the governor and his new laws. This kind of blackmail is absurd in politics today. And it's proof of a larger picture. I contend that Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, could give a damn about the Constitution, about the rule of law. When it comes to their agenda, that is all that matters. They want their agenda through, whether or not it's legal or not. And they will steal it, manipulate people, or blackmail in order to do that. Thank you, Kansas, for showing me what I've been saying for years so that everybody else can see it. Maybe people in Kansas will wise up next election and not put these people back in office. Moving on to Nebraska, their state legislature passed a ban on the death penalty. The governor vowed to veto it, and he did, sending it back to the state legislature, who then overrode his veto in a remarkable vote in a red state. Nebraska, my apologies, has finally succeeded in a goal that one of their state legislatures have been pushing since 1976. Nebraska will no longer execute people. Well, maybe. The governor has actually said that he intends to proceed to execute the people currently on death row. Now, the law states that their sentences are commuted to life in prison without parole. But the governor is proactively saying, I'm a tough on crime guy. I'm going to execute them anyway. Now, it's been discussed in the news that getting lethal injection drugs is getting harder and harder for states because a lot of the manufacturers refuse the bad publicity that comes with the idea of using a drug intended to save lives from a company that says that they are all about saving lives to kill people. So the governor has procured a new batch of these drugs from India. Now, the big problem with this whole importing these drugs from India is that it requires FDA approval. The regulations, and these regulations were set under the Bush administration. So before people say that the FDA is out of hand and they're power hungry, this was passed by the Bush administration. Now, if you think Bush is a big government guy, that's fine. Okay, whatever. But it is a Republican who passed it. So let's be clear about that. So he's also planning on having a public referendum to repeal the ban on the death penalty. Now, that won't be enacted until it gets on the ballot. And if the repeal does get passed, it'll override the state legislature and he can execute people. But the indications are he plans to do this regardless and before the state legislature or a referendum or anything can be done. He's going to violate the law. He's going to violate FDA import regulations. Also, in Nebraska, the state Supreme Court has to sign off on executions. And they're following the law and apparently not going to sign those execution orders. So is the governor of Nebraska planning on staging a coup to kill 10 men? Is that what we're coming to? That the Republicans are so fixated for blood and for this concept that the death penalty is something we have to have, that he's going to basically take the law into his own hands? What's he going to do? Is he going to line them up and shoot them in the head himself? What's in your mind, Governor? I don't understand how you're going to justify defying the law to execute some people. Is it that big of a deal to you? I mean, these people are not going to be released from prison. Short of the zombie apocalypse or nuclear war, I don't think these guys are going to see sunlight without bars in front of it. So, why are you fighting this? Why are you breaking the law multiple times? I just don't understand it. But congratulations, Nebraska, for passing a sensible law. Thank you for joining me in this episode of Screams from the Center. Please leave comments below on how I can improve. Please subscribe, like, and share this video with others. My blog is at screamsfromthecenter.wordpress.com. I'm on Twitter at screamsftcenter and on Facebook at Screams from the Center. Thank you.